Believe it or not, my name is Silver Slayer and not Gold Slayer for a reason. A lot of people have a hard time understanding that reason if they don't come from the world of precious metals. So as a silver stacking channel on YouTube, my goal is to bring as many people into the world of silver as I possibly can. There's reasons why it's called Wall Street Silver, not Wall Street Gold. There's reasons why it's called the Silver Forum and not the Gold Forum. There's reasons why there's such a big silver stacking community on YouTube and not so much gold. But a lot of people wonder why. So this video is gonna explain that. So I was doing some digging and I found an article titled, "Here are our top 5 reasons why investors might buy silver over gold." And I thought it was interesting since they listed 5 different reasons. I would love for you to participate and list some reasons why you would invest into silver over gold, or maybe would recommend silver over gold to someone else, or maybe you do like gold and some reasons why gold is better than silver, right? There's no right or wrong answer. It's all opinion related, and I like that. Now, there are pros and cons to each metal, right? You could fit $100,000 of gold in a shoebox. $100,000 of silver is going to take up a lot of storage space. Gold is a monetary metal. Silver is more of an industrial metal. They both have pros and cons, and I think this is just a great topic to talk about, especially since diversity is key. I think that owning both gold and silver is a great way to go. In my opinion, I think silver has more potential and opportunity that we might talk about later in this video. Actually, this article does talk about it with the silver supply deficit and goes into the shortage, which I think is a really good point that they bring into this entire question. So yeah, let's just jump into it. The article will be linked in the description. Hope you subscribe since I post daily videos. Let's talk silver. So number 1, the historic gold to silver ratio. One major reason why silver bulls prefer silver over gold comes down to the historical ratio between the two metals, known as the gold to silver ratio. Now, the gold to silver ratio is a great tool to see what metal is performing better than the other at any given, point in time. So let's say the ratio is 100 to 1. That means it takes 100 ounces of silver to equal 1 ounce of gold. Now, historically, it's been around 16 to 1, and I'm talking like thousands of years. It used to be 8 to 1. Actually, it used to be like 2.5 to 1. 2.5 part silver equals 1 part gold. That's in like biblical times. Then it was 8 to 1 because that's the ratio it comes out of the ground. Nowadays, it's 75, 80 to 1, which means that it's extremely out of whack, meaning that gold is overvalued, silver is undervalued. So as an investor, wouldn't you want to invest into something that's undervalued compared to overvalued? Because if it's overvalued, that means it's over the value that it could or naturally should be. So a lot of people are saying, yo, this ratio is going to go down to its natural levels again, which is 16 to 1 in today's day and age. I don't think it's too realistic. I would say 35 would be a natural level in today's day and age, which still means that silver would astronomically outperform gold. So now let's look at point number 2, which is increased volatility. A lot of people, or I guess myself at least, like to call silver gold on steroids, but steroids has side effects as well, right? I mean, silver hits higher highs because it's a much smaller market, but that also means it can hit lower lows. It's a lot more dangerous, but there's also a lot more opportunity, right? Glass half full, glass half empty. If gold's going to rise 20%, silver's going to rise 25, 30. But also for the downside, if gold's going to drop 15%, silver's going to drop 15, 20, 25%. So there's a lot more opportunity within those margins, but also a lot more room for error. So you got to be careful. Now, calling a safe haven metal risky is a little bit contradicting. So I don't really look at the downside of that, right? Because regardless, at the end of the day, at least you're putting fake money into real money. So it's not like if silver's down 15%, it really matters when inflation is already burning the dollar away as it is. Even if it is down, especially if you're not planning on selling, it's still it's still better than leaving your money in your bank account. So number 3, lower above ground stockpiles. This is a lot of what I talk about, why I see so much opportunity and potential with silver, is because they're talking about the silver supply deficit. I mean, it goes straight into it. Today, the above ground stockpiles of gold are estimated around 200,000 tons. Most of gold ever mined is simply recycled, not actually used up in industry, right? Gold is used for, necklaces, watches, earrings, coins, bars, jewelry. A lot of that is recycled, rescrapped, reused, right? Someday this necklace is going to get pawned and melted into another ring or coin or bar or watch. And it goes on, especially since gold is so much more valuable than silver. People are more willing to sell or melt down that watch or ring or even scrap gold out of the little electronic devices because it's profitable to do so. Silver is mainly used in the industrial sector for phones and laptops and electric vehicles and all that stuff. So most of the silver is thrown away, never to be recovered. Also, given that silver is a byproduct, given that most silver is thrown away, given that the rapidly increasing demand of silver over the next, several decades is going to keep rising, you could see where things are going to head. It's going to be a lot harder to keep up with that type of demand, and that's basically what they're saying right here. So let's look at this. Most of the gold ever mined is simply recycled and not actually used up in the industry. Silver, on the other hand, is around 2 million tons above ground. However, dollar terms, this is vastly smaller. At today's prices, the 200,000 tons of gold stockpiles equate to 11.9 trillion US dollars, whereas above ground silver is around 1.4 trillion US dollars. Surprisingly, only a small percentage of that is in investment grade bullion, with roughly 40% in industrial use and 40% in jewelry or decorative ornaments. Now it goes into a pretty cool chart. I like the way they broke down this graph. So the best estimates currently available suggest that around 205,238 tons of gold has been mined throughout history, of which around 2/3 has been mined since 1950. And since gold is virtually indestructible, this means that almost all of this metal is still above ground in one form or another. If every single ounce of this gold were placed next to each other, the resulting cube of pure gold would only measure to around 22 meters on each side, which is a gold point. The ounce of gold that gets dug up out of the ground is going to stay in circulation for a century. That ounce of silver that gets dug up is going to be thrown away within a couple decades. So you could see that even if it's coming out of the ground roughly 8-1, 9-1, the ounce of silver isn't going to last as long. So the gold to silver ratio coming out of the ground is actually a lot smaller if you think about it that way, at least. So then they go into a chart above ground silver in tons from 2018. You can see a lot of it is with jewelry and a lot of it is with the industrial use. Gold is mainly all this. So given the lack of above ground stockpiles, it is quite common under certain months of excessive silver demand that you find physical silver bullion very hard to come by, with stretched out waiting periods from refineries. And if silver industrial demand was to grow rapidly in the coming years, which it is going to be, that's not an if, that is a fact, right? We could easily see the market in a supply deficit, which could potentially be a great tailwind for higher silver prices. Now, that's the biggest thing. Number three is really what I talk about on my channel a lot. And I think the severity is finally coming to light as mints and people are acknowledging it nowadays. But yeah, number four is superior industrial applications, right? It's funny that gold is so much more valuable than silver when silver is so much more essential than gold, right? Gold is almost valuable just because it's shiny. A lot of people think precious metals, people just like them because they're shiny and just for bling or whatever. That's not the reason. There's real reasons why we invest into silver, right? There's real reasons for this stuff. Gold almost is all just for that royal that look. So anyways, of our two favorite precious metals, silver has by far the greatest number of industrial applications, and that's from medical applications to chemical producing catalysts to solar panels. Silver has unique properties that cannot be replicated by other metals, which gives it the industrial demand that gold simply does not have. Some of the most notable uses in the industrial sector for silver are photovoltaic cells or solar panels, electronic devices and switches, circuit boards, RFID tags, chemical catalysts, photography, medicine, medical devices, brazing and soldering, bearings, automotive, electric vehicles, and almost every computer, mobile phone, automobile, and appliance contains silver. Many of the applications, such as solar PV and electric vehicles, are growing industries that will require more silver and raw material in the future years. That's a really big point, right? I mean, we're heading into this new digital era that's going to require silver at demands we can't even fathom right now. I mean, we're talking about every automobile company by the year 2030 is going to be an EV, right? Every single one. The most recent one I heard is like Volvo, I think. I mean, every day you hear new companies coming out saying they're switching completely to EV. I mean, there's so much need for silver, and like they said, nothing can replicate it since silver is the most highly conductive metal for thermal conductivity, electricity, and light sensitivity. Copper it can do similar things with silver in terms of conductivity, but the quality is so far off that copper could never replace it. It's not realistic, and I've read many and covered many articles talking about that. So number five, the future EV market demand, kind of like what I was just talking about. There is one new emerging market for silver industrial demand that could have significant impact, and that is the electric vehicle EV market. Right now, the electric vehicle market is still quite small, but it is set for dramatic growth in the coming years. The trend is for most cars and large vehicles to have fully electric model in the near future, and this will largely benefit silver demand, but not so much gold, right? I'm saying silver is really the metal that will explode in value over time. Gold really doesn't have any place for that. Gold has no place for the industrial sector. Gold isn't scarce, right? It just doesn't make sense for gold to be that metal that's really going to explode in the future. Silver is. So almost every component in an EV requires some amount of silver. And actually, it's around 58 grams of silver in each EV right now. They're trying to cut it down to like 28 grams. And I do think a lot of that will happen where right now maybe so much silver's in a solar panel or EV or 5G tower, but they're going to try to cut it down. And I also think recycling is going to play a bigger factor as people start to notice, yeah, there is a huge lack of silver. But regardless, there's no way to fix this problem. Almost every component in an EV requires some amount of silver. And the EV sector is estimated to grow over 90 million ounces of silver each year by 2025. That's almost a 10% increase of the total silver market demand in a given year. Given there is currently a very tight supply of new silver coming from mines at the current price, the EV market could be enough to send silver into a consistent supply deficit over several years. And that's just the EV market. That's not solar panels, which is just as big as we try to go green, 5G towers, silver lithium ion batteries, and literally everything else. So, I mean, we're talking about a much bigger situation than I think people understand. And unless you look at articles and data and statistics like this, you couldn't possibly even understand it or try to. You just couldn't, right? I mean, that's why I try to make a lot of videos covering this stuff. That's why I make so many videos talking about this, because people have no idea how serious of a situation this is. When they just look at a title and a thumbnail of me talking about the silver shortage, they just assume they know what I'm talking about. And that's why when they come out with statements, they sound so silly. And I'm like, guys, do your research, right? I cover this stuff on a daily basis. You can't try to argue or try to go against someone who covers this stuff daily for 10 plus years now, especially just going off of an assumption, compared to going off of someone who researches this stuff for so long. And that's a dangerous thing as well, because people are going to realize when it's too late, right? I mean, if we're looking at this situation right now, it hasn't even really started yet, and we're already starting to see some of the consequences. Imagine in 10 years from now how serious of a situation this would be. Now here's more graphs. It's talking about revenue from the EV markets and battery demand from EVs. So I mean, you can just see it by the year 2022. I mean, it's rapidly going up. So as we move toward a future focused on, sustainability of the planet, silver will arguably play a much more important role than gold. A future which has electrical efficiency and net zero emissions as a major goal will likely require much more physical silver than today's current environment. And sorry, by the way, I don't have my contacts in. I need new contacts and I'm blind as a bat, so it's kind of hard to read this. I actually expanded the page to like 140%, but it's still hard. But yeah, I just really wanted to let people know that these are the some of the main reasons. I did think they did a great job of covering um, the reasons why. I mean, there are other reasons, that we could go into. I want you to participate and bring some of those reasons to light as well. But another one is silver's cheaper. Gold is expensive, especially if you're someone that's on a budget. I mean, just buying, if you just want to, you could buy $20, you know, ounce of silver here and there. You can't really do that with gold so much. So gold is, in my opinion, more for, or if I was to recommend someone to get into gold, it would be someone who's spending a lot more money. Like I said, you could fit $100,000 worth of gold in a shoebox. You can't do that with silver. So if you're someone who's trying to spend $100,000 or investing thousands upon thousands, gold might be a better play just because storage space, right? Or maybe get a foundation of silver, but also invest a lot of that in gold just to cut down the amount of storage space. I mean, regardless, diversity is key. But if you're someone who's really putting money into it, gold is almost gonna have to play some type of part in your portfolio. So, anyways, I'm curious what you thought about this video. What do you think? What are some other reasons that you think silver would be a better play than gold? I would love for you to comment down below. Also, what do you think about the points they made or some of the points I made? Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, if you thought it was educational, informational, at least entertaining, make sure to hit the like button. I'm blind right now. I can't even see the screen barely, but I tried to read it. I wanted to make a video. I thought this was a great article. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. This is Silver Slayer. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.